I used to think our relationship problems meant we were incompatible. What I was really afraid of was that no matter how much we loved each other, we would never feel understood. We weren't screaming, we weren't dramatic, we were calm and completely missing each other. That silence, that's where relationships quietly die. Here's the fear no one says out loud. What if I explain myself perfectly? And they still don't get me? That fear makes us defensive, and defensiveness kills connection. This video isn't about communication tips. It's about how I realized that conversations are systems, and ours was badly designed. What changed everything for me was learning how psychologists, linguists, and even FBI negotiators engineer conversations. Not to win, but to create safety and truth. Same people, same love, different words, and suddenly, different outcomes. So I want to share 15 shifts that transformed my own relationships. 1. Stop asking why. I used to ask why. Why did you ignore me? Why did you do that? I thought I was being logical, curious, fair. But every why looks for blame and made them defensive. The word why doesn't land in the brain as curiosity. It lands as explain yourself. Our nervous system hears it as accusation, even when your tone is calm. When I switched to what was happening for you in that moment, same situation, completely different response. Instead of defending, they told me the story. They talked about stress, distraction, being overwhelmed. That single shift changed the emotional temperature of our conversations. 2. Replace opinions with observations. I used to say, I feel ignored. To me, that sounded honest. But what they heard was, you're failing me. And instantly, the conversation turned into defense. Here's what I learned the hard way. Feelings built on opinions invite arguments. Feelings built on observations invite understanding. Instead of saying, I feel ignored, I said, we haven't talked in 3 days. No blame, no diagnosis, just reality. Opinions make people defend who they are. Observations invite them to respond to what happened. That single shift changed the tone of our hardest conversations. 3. Ask for sequence, not justification. I used to say, why did you do that? Explain yourself. I thought I was asking for clarity. What I was really doing was putting them on trial. The moment you ask someone to explain, their brain switches from memory to defense. So I changed the question. I used FBI cognitive interview technique. I asked, what happened first? Then what? Something subtle but powerful happened. They stopped arguing. They stopped justifying. They started remembering. They talked about the moment before the mistake, what they were distracted by, what they assumed, what they missed. And that's when I understood. Justification protects identity. Sequence reveals reality. When people tell a story in order, the truth shows up on its own. No pressure, no interrogation. Now, whenever a conversation gets tense, I don't ask for reasons. I ask for the timeline. Because stories don't fight back. They simply unfold. 4. Name the emotion before the topic. I used to jump straight into the issue. I'd start with facts, logic, solutions. And somehow, everything still felt tense. What I didn't realize was this. The emotion always enters the room before the topic does. Instead of starting with the problem, I tell them how I'm feeling. I said, I might sound tense because I'm scared. Not dramatic, not blaming, just honest. The moment I named the emotion, the temperature in the room dropped. No one argued with the feeling. No one tried to fix it. Unspoken emotions run the conversation. Spoken emotions release it. Once the fear was named, the topic felt smaller, manageable, and that single sentence has saved more conversations than any perfectly constructed argument. 5. Use mirroring, not rebuttal. I used to listen just long enough to prepare my response. While they were talking, I was already building my argument. And somehow, no matter how logical I was, the conversation kept getting worse. I stopped responding with my side. Instead, I used FBI hostage negotiation course skill. I said, "So what I'm hearing is," and I repeated their words. Not perfectly, just honestly. Something unexpected happened. They softened. Their voice slowed down. Sometimes they even corrected me, calmly. Because in that moment, they weren't fighting to be right. They were checking if they were understood. Now, I don't rush to be understood. I make sure they are. Because once someone feels heard, resolution becomes possible. Understanding comes first. Agreement comes later. 6. Slow the conversation on purpose, letting silence work. I used to rush silence. The moment a pause showed up, I felt this urge to fill it, to explain more, to fix it, to make it less uncomfortable. I thought silence meant the conversation was failing. What I didn't know then was this. Silence is where the brain catches up to the emotion. So I tried something different. When the conversation slowed, I didn't jump in. I waited. At first it felt unbearable, but then something happened. They took a breath, their shoulders dropped, and the real words came out, not the defensive ones. That's when it clicked for me. Silence isn't awkward. It's processing. Now I let the pause do its work. 7. One issue, one conversation, one argument used to turn into everything. It would start with something small. A house chore, a forgotten promise. And suddenly we were talking about the past, the future, and the entire relationship. That's when everything felt heavy, unfixable. So I learned to stop the spiral. Now I say, let's stay with this one thing. Not forever, just for this conversation. When you deal with one thing at a time, solutions show up. 10 problems feel hopeless. When you stack everything together, people shut down. So now I focused on one issue and protect the conversation. That's how progress happens. 8. No direct challenge, instead, ask calibration questions. I used to challenge directly. I'd say, "You're not listening." And the moment those words landed, the walls went up. Defensiveness, denial, distance. So I learned FBI negotiation soft entry questions. Softer way in. Instead of challenging, I started checking. I said, "Would it be wrong to say you're overwhelmed right now?" Same concern, different entry, and almost every time the resistance disappeared. They didn't feel accused. They felt seen. Direct challenges trigger armor. Calibration questions invite honesty. You're not forcing agreement, you're offering a possibility. And when people don't feel cornered, they open up. Now I don't push my way into hard conversations. I ease my way in. Because soft entry opens doors that force never will. 9. Speak in impact, not intent. "I didn't mean to hurt you" used to be my shield. I thought that sentence was taking responsibility. But what it was really doing was protecting me, not the relationship. Because every time I said it, the pain in them stayed the same. So I changed the language. Instead of try to prove I meant well, I try to understand how it felt. I said, "I see how that landed for you." No excuses. No explanations. No self-defense. Just recognition. because understanding doesn't require agreement. But it does create connection. 10. No accusation, be curiosity. Use. Help me understand. You never tell me anything. You never told me truth, ended badly. Every time. I thought I was expressing hurt. What they heard was a verdict. A sentence that closed the door before the conversation even started. So I changed the frame. Instead of accusing, I got curious. I said, help me understand what made that hard to share. The same pain, completely different energy. They didn't shut down. They didn't push back. They paused and thought. Because curiosity doesn't corner people. It invites them. Here's what I learned. Accusation attacks identity. Curiosity explores experience. Now, when something hurts, I don't reach for absolutes like always or never. I reach for understanding, and understanding has taken me places accusation never could. Let me pause here. If you've ever thought, I explain myself clearly. So why does it always turn into a fight? That's not a personality flaw. That's bad conversational design. Tell me in the comments, which one of these already hit you? 11. Borrow time, not force resolution. I used to push for resolution. I wanted things settled, right now. I thought finishing the conversation meant progress. But most of the time, we were just too heated to hear each other. So I learned to borrow time. I started saying, can we pause and come back to this later? Not to avoid it, not to escape, to regulate. Something changed the moment I stopped forcing closure. The pressure dropped. The defensiveness eased. The conversation felt safer. Because here's what I learned. A rushed resolution feels productive, but it rarely heals. A regulated conversation does. Now, I don't measure success by how fast we finish talking. I measure it by how calm we are when we return. 12. Use microagreements. I used to focus on everything we disagreed on. The conversation felt like a tug of war. Each of us pulling harder. Nothing moved. So I started looking for something smaller. In the middle of conflict, I'd say, at least we agree on this part, right? Sometimes it was tiny. Sometimes it felt almost insignificant. But that little yes changed everything. The tension softened. The energy shifted. Total disagreement feels like a dead end. Microagreement creates momentum. Once people feel aligned on anything, their bodies relax. Now, I don't chase full agreement in hard moments. I build it piece by piece. One shared point can move an entire conversation forward. 13. Lower your voice at the peak. I used to raise my voice at the peak. Not shouting, just louder, firmer, more intense. I thought more volume meant more clarity. What it actually created was threat. So I tried the opposite. At the moment when everything felt heated, I lowered my voice. I slowed my words. I softened my tone. And something unexpected happened. They leaned in. They became more present. They listened. That's when I learned. The nervous system follows tone, not logic. When you go quiet, you signal safety. And safety invites attention. Now, at the peak of tension, I don't push harder. I go calmer. Because calm is contagious, and it can change the entire direction of a conversation. 14. Ask future-based questions, not past-focused questions. I used to replay every mistake, every unspoken response, every harsh word, every frustration. I thought reviewing the past would fix it. Instead, it made everything heavier. Tension grew. Defensiveness grew. Then I tried something different. Instead of digging up what went wrong, what would help next time? The room changed instantly. They paused. They considered. They imagined a solution together. Because here's what I realized. The past feels like blame. The future feels like possibility. Hope enters the room. Solutions become visible. Now, in tense moments, I stop replaying the past. I invite the future. Because moving forward together heals far more than looking backward. 15. End with reassurance, not victory. I used to end conversations by proving my point. I thought being right would settle things. I thought winning meant closure. But what I noticed was, even when I won, we both still felt distant. So I tried something different. I stopped trying to finish with victory. I started finishing with reassurance. I'd say, I care about us, even when this is hard. It's simple, not flashy, not argumentative. And something surprising happened. The tension stayed gone. Our connection stayed alive. Even the hardest conversations felt safe. Because here's the truth I learned. Connection lasts longer than victory. Being understood matters more than being right. Now, when a conversation ends, I don't chase points. I leave love, even in disagreement. That one sentence has saved more relationships than any clever argument ever could. I didn't fix my relationship by loving harder. I fixed it by speaking differently. Love doesn't fail, conversations fail. And the beautiful thing is, conversations can be redesigned. You don't need better arguments. You need better questions. You don't need to win. You need to be understood. And to understand. If this resonated, don't just watch it. Try one sentence differently this week. That's how relationships change. Quietly. One conversation at a time.